Hello and welcome to the Fight to Fight. Tonight we have Miss GB herself and world champion Natasha Jonas. Natasha, it is so good to have you here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries at all. First up, I want to say a massive congratulations because obviously in November you became world champion and it was a really great night. It was a great night of boxing overall, but you absolutely smashed it with Chris Numbers. I mean, you pretty much did it in round one. If we'd had 30 more seconds, you probably would have, knocked her out in the first round. So, did you think it was going to be that easy?
It still wasn't easy. You've got to get the shots off and everything. But Joe had been saying for the whole camp, like everyone stopped telling her she's going to knock her out. She's not. Like this is going to be 10 hard rounds, and
Wow.
and I think she even said herself, like she didn't think I'd be able to punch or something, and I was like, I felt a little bit disrespected by Joe and by Natasha, so I was like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, no, you definitely
so
showed
then,
the punch.
yeah, when the opportunity came, and hats off to all my sparring partners because the real hard work was done with them, and I knew if I replicated even just 50% of what I did with them in the ring, then I knew I'd win anyway. But I didn't never think I'd win like that, only because Joe had drilled it out to me that I wasn't.
Oh, really? No way. That's a way to build your confidence, isn't it?
Oh,
no, it was
there's a
incredible.
method to his madness.
Yeah. The power you had. I want to ask you, because you came up in weight classes to take her on and to get this belt. To me, it looked like you were so powerful that night. Do you think that's to do with the different weight? What do you think that's got something to do with it?
No, I think there's a lot of things included. I've always been strong, and I think I've always been powerful. I think, I think punch power has always been one of me like benefits. I don't know I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but yeah, it's always been, yeah, that's it. It's always been one of them. So, but I had to, as you grow in professional boxing and just in boxing in general, you have to add other strings to your bow, and I can't always rely, because sometimes it doesn't work. There's times with Katie and times with Teddy that it's gone 10 rounds, and you have to adapt the plan to that. So I can't just always rely on that one shot, because sometimes it's not there. So there was other things that I'd worked on in the camp, and it wasn't just like a case of eating more and training less to build up. There was a lot of science that went into the camp, and you are heavier. You've got to carry that weight for 10 rounds. You're expected to carry that weight for 10 rounds, and it is a lot different. So I do think in that camp, though, I did realize how much, like, mentally more than physically, like, the weight cut takes out of you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because for the whole week, obviously, I knew I was so far under that getting on the scales wasn't going to be the issue.
Yeah.
So then, instead of thinking about the weight, which is what you're normally doing, I was thinking about the fight. So before I'd even got in the ring, I must have done 3 million rounds in my head.
Yeah.
So it was just that whole week, like, even though I had more energy physically, and you're not drained, you're not making a weight or whatever, I was mentally drained because I'd done so many rounds.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's incredible that the weight cut. I always admire female boxers that can do that anyway. I mean, you've changed a lot with weight classes. What is it like when you've actually got to make weight? I mean, I change daily, let alone like monthly. Like, how that stress that you're talking about, where you actually got to have a whole week of thinking about a fight. What's it like when all you're thinking about is weight? What do you have to do? What happens to your body?
I have a nutritionist now, so like we always have a plan, and that goes even onto fight week. And there's like I've never really had to do some of the things that other boxers do. Like I don't really use saunas and baths and whatever. It is always like weight that comes off, but that's all the science behind of part of the plan. But it can be stressful. And obviously you have to learn, and because I've been in boxing for so long, you have to learn about your body. At certain times of the month, especially for women, you will retain a little bit more water. You'll crave a bit more sweet things, and obviously when you've got a restricted diet plan, you can't do that. So you have to come up with like ways to deal with that and combat that issue. And luckily, me and Scott get on really well, and he knows me too well. There's always ice cream in my plan, so I've always got that as a kickback. It's like my favorite thing in the world. So
always got something. No, that's good.
Yeah.
So your next fight, I mean, I've heard a lot of rumors, and I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I mean, I know that you can't say yes or no, and nothing's like set in stone. But is it still being made that Hannah Rankin is possibly going to be next? And is it going to be September the 10th on the Shields Marshall card? What is there any more that you know? Are you anything at all?
Yeah, there isn't much more than I can add. I know that we are in talks, and there's been a lot of back and forths, and hopefully we can get it over the line. There's still things that they're coming back with and we're responding to, and vice versa. So obviously there's other offers that she's got as well, and I don't blame her for considering that, because I do the same.
I heard about
it doesn't benefit me, but I understand why she's doing it. You've got to take the best offer that's on the table for you, because you're only boxing for a short period of time, and you've got to keep the doors open. But obviously I'd love to have the fight. I think there's a show in Liverpool on the 3rd. I think there's a show in London on the 10th, and either of them for me would be it'd be amazing to have a homecoming in Liverpool, which is what I've said I've wanted all along. But then it would be also just as amazing to be on the first female only card with such a big backing and a big night of boxing with Sav, Clarissa, Baumgartner and Mayer. For me as well, that's another one as a spectacle that I'd love to be a part of. And no matter which way, I think I will be a part of it, whether that's on comms or whether that's fighting on the night. So
you'll be there. You'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. 100%. I'll be there. God, yeah.
I've already bought my tickets for the 10th of September. Like, I'm ready. I mean, but I was going to ask you, because potentially for me, like as a fan, I might be able to see loads of my favorite boxers all in one night. What do you think of an all-female card in terms of trying to get people on board that aren't necessarily maybe they haven't been exposed to women's boxing yet, they don't know how good it is? So do you think this is going to pull them in? Do you think this is going to push them away? Like, what's your opinion on the all-female card?
I think it's a good test to see where it's at, I think. And I think that's I presume that's what we're trying to test. We're trying to push the boundaries and break some of the barriers down. There isn't a fight of the year contender now which doesn't have a female fight in it. So that just goes to show how far female boxing's come. We're up at its best. We've always known how good it was. We just needed the world to see it, and now we've got the athletes to do it. Your Mayers, your Baumgartners, your Clarissas, your Savs, myself, Hannah, Katie Taylor, Serrano, like all fights like that, and Pursoon, Hamadouche, all them fights that they've been like classics, and everyone's really thoroughly enjoyed them, and no one, the first thing when people saw mine and Katie's fight was, why wasn't this top of the bill? And that was huge, considering it was on a pay-per-view and it was a heavyweight undercard. So and like I said, we just needed the promoters to get behind us, the stations to get behind us, the broadcasters to get behind us, and they are doing that now and taking us seriously. So this will be a good judgment of where we are in that, and then hopefully we can push for the things like the 3 minutes that everyone wants, and then we can push for the money that we want to do that. So
no, absolutely, for sure. Well, this brings me perfectly talking about how far it's grown. So I mean, you are Miss GB. You you were the first person, the first female to compete at the Olympics, to qualify for the Olympics. Like you began it all, which is just incredible. And I want to ask you, because I know that you began wanting to be a footballer and then took a U-turn because of injury and came into boxing. And I'd love to know about how you got into boxing and how it, if you fell in love with it. Did you fall in love with it?
Like a love-hate relationship. I love it. I think you know what, it was just a mad coincidence and an accident. And my first ever coach, who was from the Rotunda ABC, which was my amateur gym that I never really left, I used to go to my uncle's karate gym just to lose a bit of weight after my injury. I'd put on a lot of weight. I'd lost a whole group of friends, and I thought, right, I need to, sport was my motivation to keep myself healthy and mentally keep myself on track. And when I lost that, I felt like I lost more than just the playing football.
Yeah.
So I started going to my uncle's karate gym, and the woman over the road that used to watch it for him was Sylvia Singleton, and she just started like the female side of the boxing in the Rotunda.
Wow.
And taking the younger like lads as well. So she was like, "Oh, stop training by yourself and come along to the gym." And I was like, "Oh God, yeah, I'll come next weekend." And I didn't have any intentions of going, but she bugged me that much that I thought, like, it's embarrassing now that every week I say, "Oh, I'll go next week," and I don't. So
Oh
I
no.
thought, I'll just go,
Yeah.
and then the next time I see it, I'll just say I didn't like it and not going back. Like, I was grown, I was like 20 at the time. I was like, I'm not being scared to tell some woman that I don't want to
Yeah.
do it. So like, so I went, and God, it was like 17 years ago now, and I haven't looked back since. I just went and just enjoyed it from the first minute that I went in there. It was like, it was, I think it kept me, like football. The difference with football is that I used to be mad when I used to try, and I used to feel that some of the other players didn't and would lose. With boxing, it's all about you, and I don't have to rely on anybody else. You mean, you go everywhere as like, team Rotunda or team GB or what, team England, whatever. But when you're in the ring, it's just about the work that you've put in. So I appreciated that more than football, because then, like, you can't hide.
Yeah, it's just you. All that hard work. That, when you get that belt, it's yours.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's amazing. Were there lots of girls doing it at the time? Were you one of the only ones?
No, I was the only one for a few years, and then some younger ones, Lauren. There was a couple that used to like flitter in and out, but they were a lot younger. Like I said, I was like 20, 21 at the time. So when you get to that like 14, 15, 16 age, they kind of flitter in and out. But if you can keep them, they'll stay forever. But they do flitter out because they find clubs and they find boys and they find other things to do. But obviously I was over all that stage, and I kind of knew what it take to be an athlete and to take things seriously. So I was quite driven from the beginning. And every time I thought, right, this is as good as it can get, they were like, okay, you can box for England because you're now an ABA champion. Then I'd box for England. They were like, okay, now you can come to the tournaments because you're an England boxer. And then I was like, okay, now it's going to be an Olympic sport. So now we're going to have to make a team GB. You're going to have to go to these sessions. So every time that I thought, oh, I've got as far as I can go, another avenue and another opportunity and another door would open. And, I am so blessed to be able to say that, like, I've made a career out of it. And I've also got, a commentary role as well.
So with the presenting as well, it's like a whole life has come up.
It's madly just all spun from boxing, when really I had no intentions of ever doing it.
Well, really, you just wanted to be a footballer.
I wanted to be playing for England tonight, but it didn't work out that way.
It definitely would have been there for sure. I want to ask you as well, so when you finished with the amateurs, I say finish, you didn't finish as such, but that's when you decided to have your little girl? And so did you have a break between amateur and pro, or did you carry on training, or what did that look like?
No, I had like a 2-year break. Because when I said there wasn't a pro scene, there was, but you had to either move to America or Germany to make it to be able to live from. So I already did the whole moving to America thing, and I was kind of over that, and didn't really want to go back there. So there was no real scene here. So when I said bye to the amateurs, I was saying bye to boxing, because I knew that was as like I was going nowhere else. Like, I didn't want to be amateur, so I was saying goodbye to boxing. And obviously, then Katie turned professional with Eddie, and Sky got me along to do some of the commentary for that debut. And then after that, Tom Stalker, who was our team captain for 2012, and he was a professional at the time, called me and said, "Oh, I think women's boxing will take off now. Katie's turned over, and there'll be big opportunities for more girls. Like, there's a good story with you in here. Wouldn't you think about it?" Now, my little girl I think she was 1 at the time. And I was like, "Oh, Tom, shut up." I carried on training as such, but there's a difference between being fit and doing fit classes, and then being boxing fit and being able to fight. So like, I kept myself in the gym because I think that's just who I am. I'll always do that regardless of what I do. And he was saying, "Oh, you should come back." And I was like, "Oh, Tom, shut up." And as a new mum, I was so focused in that first year of trying to be perfect and trying to do everything that everyone expects of you, and trying to be now responsible for a whole human that I wasn't even responsible for myself. And I was like, so my whole like energy, like that was used to be focused on boxing, but was then shifted to her. And then like at 1 year old, obviously she was in nursery. I was working. It's like I was self-employed at the time, so I was doing my work around her, and she had her own little routine. And I was thinking, well, actually, when Tom said it, I put the phone down. I was like, shut up. And then I was like, what is actually stopping me? Because you know, I could work around my training and the baby, because that's what I was doing anyway. And she had her own little routine, and she was settled in what she did. So I knew that wasn't going to be an issue. And my family and my friends, I've got such a big family, and they're so supportive, that I knew that she would never be an issue. So like I phoned my mum and I phoned my cousin, who are like the two people that I'm closest to that see the horrible side of boxing. Like, you know, no one sees that I cried for like 2 days when I lost in the Olympics. But they did. So I phoned them up, and I was like, right, there's an opportunity to go pro. Like, and this is what it'll entail. This is what I'll do. And they were like, listen, if you believe you've still got it, no matter what you do, we'll 100% support you. Don't even worry about the baby. She'll never be an issue. And that was the start of the professional journey.
What an amazing family you've got as well.
Yeah.
And you're right. No one sees that side of it. No one sees like the pain when you lose, or even the pain in training, you know, when you're training 6 times a day and your body's falling apart. And what was it like coming back to serious training after having a baby?
Well, so like I when I came back, I wanted to be this weight, maybe 147. And Joe was like, no, it's too heavy. And I was walking around about 147 at the time. And he was like, no, it's too heavy. It's too heavy. And I was like, he was like, well, you've boxed at 60. So I was thinking, that was like 2 years ago. Like, I haven't made that weight for a long time. I'm not going to get that. And then all of a sudden, like I say, I just got down to super feather. And I wouldn't say it was easy, but it wasn't maybe as hard as I thought it was going to be. But yeah, it was. I just got down, and then it was so hard. You're supposed to be stronger when you've had a baby. After you've had a baby, there's like science behind you being stronger after. And I am like, I'm faster, stronger, I'm all these things. And with every camp, as you would expect, I am improving. So Joe just like messing about calls me Benjamin Button, because every camp when I do my testing and stuff, it's always improving, it's always getting better. And he was like, how are you going up in age but getting better in results? I was like,
yeah, maybe it is that. Maybe there's actual science behind it. All these athletes like scared of having children.
You should just go and have them and just have a year off and you'll be fine.
Exactly. Pop them out and then come back stronger. What about the camps? What does that look like when you have a camp? Does your little girl go with you? Does she see you train? What happens when you're like, you know, a couple of weeks out from a fight, or say a couple of months out?
So normally, like I obviously do the mum stuff, get her ready for school, take her to school. Then I do go up, get in the gym for about 10:30 for boxing. 2 hours in there, stay over in Bolton or in Manchester, wherever, for another like hour or so, and then a bit later on do the run, come back and get it in time. It's after school club that I pick her up from. So then that's my 2 sessions for the day done, and then I go back to being mum. So that's what usually happens. Now for the Terry Harper fight, we had lockdown. So I was homeschooling, which was tough. Like I will never moan about boxing again, because that was I don't know how to do it. So she was coming to training, because I couldn't bubble with me nan, because my nan's old, and she was she's like at risk. She was shielding and at risk. So I didn't want to. Obviously, I knew I'd be in the gym with Joe, and I'd be in the bubble with the baby. And I think there was one of the other lads was fighting as well. So I knew there was a bubble that I didn't really want my nan to be a part of, which normally her and my mum would. So it was just me and the baby bubbling, and Joe. So we went through the whole camp with me, Joe, Crawler. I think it was Paul Butler was the other person that was fighting. And we was the only, or it might have been Callum Johnson. and we was the only ones in the bubble and training, and it was just so hard because she was with me 24/7. So Joe would be like, go and count her reps, and like
Oh,
she'd be like 1, 2. So she was having a ball, and she'd come in the middle of the spar and give me my water in between rounds, and then Joe would say, Mila, run. And then he'd go, Mummy, run. And then I'd have to run after her down the track. So she had, like, I think she always knew what it did.
yeah.
But she never really quite understood. She knows that Mummy goes to gym and Mummy boxes, but she never knows what happens in the gym. And from then on, she knew what happened in the gym, and she's seen it. So, and with this camp as well, now it's the summer holidays, and potentially I'm going to be fighting in September. So she's again is going to be involved in this camp because she was in the gym with me before this morning. So
awesome, mate. Does she get involved? Has she got any gloves? Have you got a tiny gloves?
She Everlast did send her a pair and a little bit of kit. So she's not really interested, if I'm honest. She loves being in the gym, and she loves being around the lads, and she loves like she'll say Mummy and hit the bag when I'm like we're in the gym. But as for boxing, really, she's not really that interested. But she absolutely idolizes Nikita. So every time that she sees Nikita, she's like, Mum, right, that's it, I want to play football.
Oh no, so you will have that footballer.
yeah Well, I just hope that it's a sport that I like. So football, I'd be happy with football.
What's she not allowed to do?
Oh,
what sport?
You know what, I don't have, because I'm pretty sure my mum would have been thinking, oh, not boxing.
Exactly.
Like I say, it's opened so many doors and avenues and opportunities that it's more than the sport just itself. I'm hardworking. I'm good at talking to people at all levels. I don't want to say I'm on time because Jo will say she's lying, but there's loads of qualities. I'm committed. All them things that I've got, and they're life skills. They're not just adaptable to sport. They're life skills that you need. And if you asked an employer, what would you want your workers to be, they'd say them things. So
yeah, for sure. Well, it must be amazing for her as well, because she can look up to you and know that she can literally be whatever she wants. And like boy, girl, with with Nikita as well, it's like anything's possible. And I think that's amazing. For you,
I'm just mum. Like I'm just bored and old mum. The only time she ever even was half bothered was when I went into her school and everyone was like, oh, there's Mila's mum. And then she'd run over and hold my hand then, and she was like, so that was the only time I got a bit of clout was with her, is when I went to a school and did a little talk.
Oh wow, so that's good though. So now she can be impressed.
Now that the other kids are impressed, now she's like, that's my mum.
Okay. she'll do
Yeah, she'll do. Yeah, she's all right. She's half all right.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for telling us about your journey. And also it's amazing. It's incredible that you've gone from, being, from having a completely different vision of your life to taking up boxing, to fighting against, everything, you said there wasn't even a women's scene back then. And look where you are now, world champion. And so many people say that, female athletes, oh, you can't have children, you can't do this. You've just proved people wrong constantly. And I think that's amazing. So thank you for being inspirational to everyone.
Oh, nice one. I think one of the most important messages as a parent and as a mum and as an athlete that I've got is that, it's okay to still have and chase your dreams and want to do stuff for yourself. Obviously your children are important, and Mila means everything. She's the best title. Mum is the best title that I've got. But
I love that.
There's still things that I want to do for me, and she's a whole massive part of that, but I can still do them and not feel guilty just because I'm a mum that I have to sacrifice everything. She's part of the reason why I do it.
Yeah, and absolutely, she'll learn from that too. And she'll look at you and be like, oh, it's okay to be able to follow my dreams and have a family and do this. And yeah, I think that's amazing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'll let you go because the girls are playing. I definitely want to get home to watch the football. So thank you so much for talking to us today, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Oh, cheers. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.